Recently, I was giving a lecture at a university. We get to speak at all these great schools. We speak at Harvard, Vanderbilt, NYU, and I was telling stories about my old concerts, these shows that I used to do with some amazing artists. At some point, a student stopped me, and this student had no idea who I was talking about. And I was kind of shocked. I was telling a story about this concert, this really successful artist. But then it struck me. This particular producer, this artist, completely fizzled out. And then the student asked me, well, what happened? Why did they fall off? And then it made me think about all the many great, successful people that I've had the honor of working with. Folks that were selling out huge concerts and making hit records, and now they're gone. As I thought about it, I realized that they had three things in common. Today, I'm going to go through those three things so you can avoid those mistakes. If you don't know, I'm Justin. I run Cosmic Academy. We're an artist development school, and we've been around now for over 12 years. We've worked with over 700 aspiring producers and artists, and our students, they get incredible results. They sign to the biggest labels: Spinnin, Defected, Armada, Toolroom, Anjuna, Monstercat. They play the biggest shows: Tomorrowland, Ultra. We just had 4 students play EDC. But before I ran Cosmic Academy, I was a concert producer, and I booked over 1,000 artists. And it was fascinating how a huge artist, we could book them 1 year and they'd sell 5,000 tickets, but just a few years later, they couldn't sell 50. So what happens? Why does an artist just fall off? So as I analyzed them, I realized that a few things in common. It was always something of one of these 3 areas. These 3 areas just kept coming up. The first one that would cause artists to fail: attitude. I'll tell you a quick story. About 10 years ago, I was doing a show with a very successful artist at that time. He had a few pretty big records at the time, so plenty of people wanted to come and see him. If I said his name today, most of you would have no clue who he is. Let's call him Artist X. When Artist X's career went down, I can attribute that to his attitude. When we booked him, he was a nightmare. I know as producers and DJs, we can think like, oh, we're kind of cool, but let's be real. No one here is Paul McCartney or Mick Jagger. But sometimes producers, DJs, whoever, they can think they're some huge rock star. And this guy's ego was out of control. From even before the show happened. Weeks in advance, his demands were outrageous. The type of stuff he wanted in his green room, it was like he was Rihanna or Beyonce. And then at the actual show, he was a nightmare. And when I would do a show, I would have about 200 people working for me. Production staff, lighting, sound, security. And of those 200 people, no one liked him. He was literally a dick to everyone. He did his performance completely hammered, sloppy drunk. And by the end of the night, my staff came to me and they said, we will never work with this person again. Justin, if you want to book him, that's up to you, but you got to find a whole new team. And I said, okay, I totally get it. Luckily, there is an endless amount of DJs and performers that we could choose from. And sure enough, other venues, other agents, other labels felt the same way. Within about 2-3 years, Artist X had pretty much no signings and no gigs because of his attitude. His talent was great. He was extremely talented. There's no denying that Artist X had great capabilities with making music. But the music world is a team sport. Doing a show is a team sport. Putting out a record with a label is a team sport. And if people don't like your attitude and they don't want to play on your team, then it doesn't matter how good you are. On the flip side, your attitude can be one of the reasons why you get more in this business, why you get ahead in this business. I have this student named Nostalgics. When I go to a show with her, she introduces herself to everybody. She's friendly to everyone, from the security guard to the sound guy. I'll never forget, I went to her show. She was playing Space here in Miami. And for this set she played, she brought flowers for the staff. Now, those people are going to remember her forever, and they're going to say great things, and it's going to help her continue on that road through success. So the lesson here is attitude is everything. It can literally make you or break you. By the way, I've mentioned my students here a few times. We have an incredible program at Cosmic Academy where we work with you hands-on. And if you're looking to take your career to that next level, I'll leave an application below in the comments. The next reason that I see really successful artists fail, they don't care about the brand. I started booking shows in about 2005, so there was maybe just MySpace and barely Facebook around. So there wasn't much of like a social media branding involvement. But by the time it was about 2012, there was already Instagram, Twitter's going, and YouTube's going. And what happened was there were artists that were totally fine with moving their brand to that area. They were down to do that work. And then there were artists who just ignored it. A lot of artists at that time, they just had this opinion like, oh, if I have a hit song, I don't need social media. And that became their downfall because their fans all ended up on social media. And social media is the #1 place where fans discover new music. That's a real stat. But these artists, because they weren't there, they had no presence, they were operating by themselves in a vacuum. I even remember some of these artists who would make fun of the folks that were using social media. They'd make fun of Martin Garrix for posting these really great vlogs on YouTube. They'd make fun of Dylan Francis for posting his funny vines. Remember those? Those were great. But here's the thing. Martin Garrix and Dylan Francis are still around and they're doing great. And the haters, the artists that hated on them, the people that refused to evolve their brand, those artists are gone. A lot of them neglected social media so much that by the time they got on Instagram, people forgot about them. If you're watching this video, maybe you're a bit older. Yeah, maybe you don't care as much about your favorite artist having a big presence on social media. But here's the thing. The young people are the people that buy the tickets. They go to the shows, they share the new music. And the #1 place where people discover new music is on Instagram, TikTok, etc. You might say, well, Justin, I don't need those younger fans. Okay, but your 30-year-old fans are gonna one day be 40-year-olds. And at some point, they're gonna stop caring about coming to your show at 1 in the morning. You need new people to keep learning about you. And that's all done today on social media with your brand. So a lot of these artists I used to book, they were huge, but the reason they can't sell any tickets anymore or get anyone to hear their new song is they neglected this side for so long. And the lesson here is play both sides. You must evolve with the branding. Remember, it's not just about how your friends find new music or how you find new music. It's about how new people find new music. Now, the next reason artists fail might be the most important. Reason 3, their sound never progresses. So let's take this example. I used to book this artist. Let's call him Artist Z. Artist Z had this album that did really well. It was their first album. And he literally had like 5 or 6 songs in this time period that were huge. And everyone at that time loved that sound. People came to see him, and that sound dominated that period. But at some point, people want new stuff. So Artist Z, he decides to put out a new album. And guess what? Those new songs sound a lot like the old songs. Same genre, same sound selection, same drums. Maybe the melodies were a little different, the vocals are a little different, but the sound is kind of the same. And yeah, people still kind of liked it and they still kind of came, but not as enthusiastically. And then the time comes again where Artist Z has to put out new music. And again, it's the same sound. But while this is happening, all of those fans that this artist had are discovering new stuff, new artists, new ideas. People love hearing new stuff. I think the best analogy for this is actually movies. It's really very similar. It's great watching an old movie over and over again. It gives you nostalgia. Like, I love Christopher Nolan. I can watch The Dark Knight or Inception. I can watch that over and over again. But I also want the new stuff. I'm so excited when I sit down in the theater to see the new Christopher Nolan movie. And that artist, Artist Z, he wasn't putting out new movies. And the people that are going to see him at this point are just rewatching the old thing. They're just there for nostalgia. They're going to see the old movie that they used to watch. And this happens to a lot of artists. They find this one specific sound or this one specific song does really well, and they just keep doing it. But the problem is the audience wants new stuff. Are there legends that are just grandfathered in? Yeah, sure. People will go to see some artist that hasn't had a new song in 20 years. But those artists are losing fans little by little as the years go on. And they will continue to lose. Because like I said, they're just a nostalgia act. They're not gaining anyone new. And by the way, I'm not telling you that you have to change genres every year. Christopher Nolan still has his essence in all of his movies. Inception and Oppenheimer, these are not the same movies. They still have the Christopher Nolan beat in the middle. They both look like his movies. They have the same sort of style. Look at great musicians. Avicii has so much music, but even though his stuff from 2010 is in a different genre from like 2014, it still sounds like Avicii. Look at deadmau5. deadmau5 will do some like hard experimental house stuff, and it sounds nothing like his earlier deep progressive stuff. It still sounds like deadmau5. So you don't need to become some new artist, but you do need to show progression. You need to grow. You need to evolve. People want to see the new movie from you. They don't want to keep rewatching the old one. So keep up your attitude. Don't turn into an egotist or a dick. Make sure to continue to grow your brand. Don't skip out on that side, and always progress with your sound. If you're having trouble with any of those things and you want to dig deeper, I'm going to have the algorithm put together the next video for you because it knows you better than I do. And go watch this video next. We're going to see you in there.